Come now, gather, and I will tell you a story about the wily Monkey King and all his monkey glory. As you know, a story without a beginning, or monkeys without mischief, are an oddity indeed. Our story begins with the Monkey King, sitting on his palace throne high in the mountains, all alone. Now, the Monkey King was really quite mundane, content for so many years with common monkey things like swinging on vines and picking at lice. Yet the Monkey King had grown sullen and rather depressed. He thought, there must be more to this monkey life. And so it came to pass that a wandering peddler happened upon the Monkey Kingdom. There among the many things in his cart was a beautiful stone that sparkled and twinkled, driving the Monkey King quite wild with desire.
Tell me, peddler, what will you take in exchange for this marvelous thing?
Why, this old thing? The king's eyes sparkled. This pittance? This nonsense?
It's not a jewel at all, but a common doorknob one might find in a hall.
Suddenly, the clever peddler remembered that old saying, one man's trash is another man's treasure. He then formed a plan to learn the Monkey King's pleasure.
I've never seen anything like it. Why, it comes from the land below. It is among the world's most beautiful things. Yes, beautiful things. Most beautiful things. Beautiful things? You mean there are more? What are these things, peddler? I demand you tell the king.
Why, sire, the beautiful things are many. Some are of stone, some are of wood. Some beautiful things come from seeds, and others from wombs.
The Monkey King took a curious step closer.
Yes, sire. There are many beautiful things from far and near. Of course, I have a great deal of such treasure right here. Why, only look at this, and that over there.
Soon, there was a pile of twine and bits of wire, old shoes, rubber bands, even a bicycle tire, all piled before the king. The peddler was clever and knew an opportunity when he saw one.
Sire, these are but a few of the world's most beautiful things. Surely a mighty ruler of your experience and grace must know that counting the world's treasure is a job beyond measure.
The peddler put an arm around the Monkey King and turned him around to look at the wide open space before them.
Why, sire, just look at the wealth I have presented to thee, with its gems, jewels, and machinery.
The Monkey King followed the peddler's gaze, but didn't quite share his imagination. A bewildered look overtook the king's face.
Think of all the flowers and sounds to be heard. Imagine the variety of beasts and birds. Yea, Lord, many, many beautiful things. But for a small fee, I would happily bring them to thee.
Then bring them, peddler. Bring them to me at once. There's no time to spare. I must have all of the beautiful things. I will hear no other response. Surely a king of my great measure must have all of the beautiful things as his sole treasure.
The Monkey King then bounded over to a corner of the throne room covered by an ornate tapestry. He swung by a hanging cord which pulled aside a curtain, revealing a large vault door. The Monkey King removed a key from a chain around his neck. He turned the key in the lock, and the door swung open smoothly to reveal a room full of precious gemstones and golden coins. True, none of the things that the peddler brought to the Monkey King were of any particular value. It was mostly bunk. In fact, most of what the king traded for good golden crown currency was nothing but junk. The mounting stack had more to do with the king's foolish greed. than the fact that he was still just a curious monkey at heart. For among the trinkets and beads, there was nothing of great value, and yet the peddler was making a great fortune. In a short time, the peddler had gone from being very thin and hungry to really quite fat. He soon hired men to bring the king new things like bobbins, thimbles, and sewing machines, and the Monkey King delighted in his newfound wealth, making worthless necklaces and rings.
The king's greed is on fire! A few more carts full, and I could retire!
Along the shores of a peaceful lake, far, but not quite far enough away from the Monkey King's palace in the mountains, lived a little boy named Karume and his grandfather and grandmother. Karume's grandmother, Abilah, saw many lessons in the natural world. She was a powerful seer. The headmen in the village would call on her whenever they needed wisdom. Abilah's advice was often welcomed by Karume, for what she offered him had the ring of truth and practicality. She would say things like, "Karume, never blow into an alligator's nose after eating chicken." Or, "My son, the freshest honey can be had from the comb, but it is best eaten on the run." Now, Karume's grandfather, Abesi, was a soldier. The old man, as the older prone, loved to make instructive speeches to do with the cruelties of the world.
Karume, come. The world is full of predators, son. Only the fortunate and bold avoid becoming prey.
Not surprisingly, the animals the old man praised were the fierce and strong. The family made their living by collecting vines from the lake's shallows and twisting their dried fibers into the strong ropes sailors and other adventurers used in a world far removed from their life on the lake. Each night, while Karume studied and wrote his figures, grandfather would silently cook vegetables and rice, and grandmother would begin the work of making rope. When the meal was ready, grandfather would say,
"Karume, when we have finished plaiting this pile, we will eat, and after you will practice."
Once their meal had been finished, Karume cleared the table of its bowls and stacked them neatly in a corner.
"One day, my boy, you will be a warrior, a great fighter just like your father, and I will be your shepherd. Tonight you will practice the way of the leopard."
"Do I have to? Abesi, he should practice the way of the crane instead."
Karume would have preferred not to practice at all, but it was tradition. The young in the village served the people by fulfilling their mission. They were to be trained by a master of martial skill. Day after day, they would drill and drill.
"The way of the leopard is best."
"Grandmother, do I have to?"
Yes, 1,000 times yes."
"Do as your grandfather wishes."
Karume performed the obligatory leopard salute. He growled, wiggled his imaginary tail, then dropped to his hands and knees. He flicked his tail again, then he leapt uneasily onto one foot, causing Abilah to snicker. Karume growled and clawed as he mauled the air unconvincingly. After an hour of this torture, Abesi, his grandfather, shrugged his shoulders.
"That is enough, Karume. And now, to bed."
Karume never played before going to bed. A hot day of work and training drained him of fun, emptied him of joy. Outside his window, the orchestra of the night brought a smile to the tired boy's face. Most distinctive of all was the sound of the cranes. They were his brothers and sisters, confidants and friends. I wonder, what do cranes dream of?